from Florida Community College with an AA. Dawson knows more about politics than I do, and because he enjoys reading up on that, and he sort of helps me. We are really honored and privileged to have him. But I believe Linda has just arrived.
You are, believe correctly.
All right. All you missed was our pledge to the flag and prayer.
Well, I pledged and prayed over there, so I'm good.
Okay. So we're glad you could
Thank
make
you.
it. Glad we could work it out so that you could be here.
Thank you kindly.
And I was just telling them that we are going to turn this over to Dawson Jackson, who will facilitate this, and he'll explain how we think we should do this. Who's the time?
We're going to start off with each candidate given an 8-minute spiel. They have 8 minutes, so each candidate will have 8 minutes to kind of introduce themselves and go over maybe any key thing that we would need to know about them. And after each candidate's had their 8 minutes to talk about themselves and just let you know who they are, we'll get into more specific questions. And when you came in, at the back table, there was a bucket with some index cards, and you can write down any question you want to on it. Just don't make it too complicated. You can still do that. If you hear something during one of the candidates' introductions and you say, well, let me ask them a question about that, you're more than welcome to do that. You can address the question to all the candidates. You can address the questions to just one of the candidates. But I'm glad to be here. And before each candidate came up here, they drew a number out of a bucket. Miss Bell was the last one, so she got stuck with 2. But
Number 2, so I try harder.
So Mr. Schoaf drew first. I just want to let the candidates know you'll have 8 minutes to introduce yourselves and just talk about yourself. At 7 minutes, I'll stand up just to kind of give you a heads up. But if you want to use up all your 8 minutes, you can use up all your 8 minutes now. If you get done, you get done in 1 minute. You can sit down. We're not going to complain. So I'm going to go ahead and call Mr. Schoaf up here, and I'll start the time whenever you start talking.
I promise. Well, I'm going to try my hardest not to take 8 minutes. I don't talk that long or that much. My name is Jason Schoaf, and I appreciate this opportunity to come up and speak to you. The very first stop I made was here in this room. I guess my intro to politics. But I was born and raised in Port St. Joe. I'm raising my twin children there. I've got 10-year-old twins, William and Madeline, and they're I think my biggest fans. They've been good cheerleaders through this and walked in a lot of parades, and I tell you, they are part of the reason that I'm running for this office. I care tremendously about our rural communities. I've seen what happens when the jobs leave, and I've seen what happens to people when they don't feel like they have any opportunities. My first venture into public service, I guess you'd say, or volunteerism, was volunteering for the Port Authority in Port St. Joe because I was really, really interested in bringing jobs to our community. I've seen time and time again what happens. We hear about all the jobs in the state of Florida. Our past governor did a wonderful job at bringing jobs to the state. We just didn't happen to see them in our rural communities. We have got to have infrastructure in place. We have got to have high-speed internet and world-class vocational. Now, I've since had a chance to speak with your superintendent and learned that you are doing a tremendous job in Lafayette County for vocational training. So what I would pledge to you is that throughout this entire district, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to work with Robbie and try and learn from him so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But vocational training in our schools is first and foremost, in my opinion. That is one way that we can begin to cut back at unemployment. We can cut back at drug use. We can inspire the 70% of our children that aren't going to college through apprenticeships and working with local employers and also bringing in new jobs. I do want to address one thing though. I know I didn't speed on the way over here. I've got some speeding tickets when I was a teenager, but maybe I was in a hurry to get to work. I'll tell you the other thing is I never met Nancy Pelosi. I don't have a liberal bone in my body whatsoever. I registered at 18 as a Democrat in my community because I believe it's this way throughout the entire district, that you could not participate in local politics unless you were registered a Democrat. But there's not been a single liberal thought that's ever crossed my mind. It irritates me to no end to see the direction that our country's going in. And I've certainly never donated money to any liberal Democrats. And so as your representative, I would represent your values, your conservative values in Tallahassee. And I'd fight liberalism and socialism at every turn viciously, because I think that it is going to be the end of our country if we don't stand up and fight back. I don't play both sides. I play right down the conservative lane. And I appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Shoaf. And now I'm going to ask Ms. Linda Bell to introduce herself.
Good evening. I'm Linda Bell, married to Mark Bell, who is, where are you, Mark? The handsome guy right there with that great fish shirt on. We're married for 34 years. We have 3 daughters and we have 12 grandchildren. We definitely believe in being fruitful, go forth and multiply. And we're very proud of our grandchildren. And they range in ages from 22 to 2. So we very much love that part of our lives. I have been in, I live in southwest Leon County on Lake Talquin, about 5 minutes from Hosford. Hosford, Florida. I go to church at Corinth Baptist Church in Hosford, where my husband and I teach adult Sunday school. We've been up here about 3 years now, and I've been living on Lake Talquin near Hosford for about 2 years now. Came up here to move into God's country, get out of where I was. It's become very, very liberal. I was a mayor, I was a vice mayor, and I was a councilwoman of Homestead, Florida, which is the agriculture community of Miami-Dade County. So if you know, actually the city of Homestead and the surrounding communities, they do about 80% of the nation's winter crops. And a lot of people don't even know that, but it's a very agriculture area. As a matter of fact, I worked so hard for the farming community when I was a county commissioner, I was also a county commissioner, that I received an advocate award from the Farm Bureau, as well as awards from the local Chamber of Commerce for being so business-minded and helping out the business community so much. So I came up here to semi-retire, and then I went to work as the manager of Sneed's. I am the town manager of Sneed's, and I'm helping them recover from this wonderful thing, not so wonderful, called Hurricane Michael. I went through Hurricane Andrew, so I'm very well acquainted with hurricanes, restoration, recovery, how to help the community during this recovery. And I will tell you, the town of Sneed's is recovering. It's rebounding very, very well. We still have major, major cleanup, and I'm working constantly with SBA, with FEMA, with the public side of FEMA to make sure that we have all the necessary assistance for all of the residents of Sneed's, as well as for all of the area in which I live. I am the president of Florida Right to Life. The pro-life issue is a very important issue to me, and I have been involved in Florida Right to Life for only 30 years now. And it's a volunteer position, by the way. And I'm also the chairman of the board for the last 4 years of National Right to Life. In fact, I will be leaving here on Thursday to head to Washington, D.C. for our spring board meeting, where I will conduct the National Right to Life board meeting. This is a very, very important work, and you see what's happening in our nation when it comes to the radical nature of abortion, where we're now boasting in states like New York and Virginia and all over the country. We're talking about it in New Mexico, they're talking about it in Massachusetts, and now the cat is out of the bag about, we just kill them when they're alive if we're not real happy about the outcome of the abortion. They just happen to be born alive. It's, we'll just take care of that. And it's become so repulsive and disgusting. One of the reasons I'm in the race, is not just my experience and my experience as an elected official, because this is going to be a very, very important seat. We're not even going to have representation for the 2019 legislative session. So I think it's really imperative that whomever wins this race has some experience so we can hit the ground running when it comes time to get in Tallahassee and to work on your behalf, to work what the issues are that matter the most to you. And so that candidate certainly is me. I am a strong advocate of the Second Amendment, protector and defender of the Second Amendment, and have received the highest rating from the NRA in the race. Of course, I'm going to get the Right to Life endorsement. I am the president of Right to Life, but I would have gotten it anyway as somebody who's been working in the field of Right to Life for the past 30 years. As a matter of fact, just last Thursday, I was in the Capitol conducting a press conference with Senator Dennis Baxley, as well as Representative Mike Hill, and other members who are co-sponsoring and sponsoring 3 pieces of very good legislation. And so Florida Right to Life and I conducted this press conference, and I led it on the life issues to try to get endorsements. I'm sure not many of you saw it on the press because it was too successful, and the press certainly doesn't want to promote how successful a good pro-life press conference is. So what they did show you was the animosity that Planned Parenthood was there, and there were some FAMU students that were there yelling, and then they had the one legislator who was opposed to us pretty much monopolize the media time. So that is truly the definition of fake news, and I understand that well. When I was mayor and vice mayor and commissioner, I was very, very engaged in the business community, as I discussed earlier with the Chamber of Commerce. And what I did is worked with the city manager to help relax the business regulations to encourage more businesses to open their doors in the city of Homestead, and it was very, very successful. And we created kind of like a one-stop shop for anybody that needed permits to make it a lot easier to do business. That's the same mentality I'm bringing to this district. Because if you really want businesses to thrive, if you want them to flourish, if you want people to be entrepreneurs, the best thing you can do is get out of their way and quit the onerous regulations and help them to be the best that they can possibly be. And certainly not have just regulation after regulation like we saw in the Obama administration. I'm very happy to be here tonight. I look forward to engaging with all of you. I look forward to your questions, and let's go on. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Ms. Bell, for introducing yourself. Now I'm going to ask Ms. Virginia Fuller to make her opening remarks.
If y'all need some, there's some in the refrigerator.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try my best to speak as loud as I can because I'm always criticized for my soft voice. But don't let that fool you. Yesterday I mentioned, because Linda and I were at another event, and I mentioned how I got into this race. I was supporting another candidate. There were 3 candidates that early on joined the race, and was actively campaigning on his behalf when he dropped out and could not convince him otherwise. And I recruited 3 other people. They weren't interested. I couldn't find anybody else. So I decided, why not me? So I jumped in the race. Then about a month ago, for the first time, I met Linda at the same time that I submitted my petition to run for the race. I found out that she too had thrown her hat in the ring. Unfortunately, I didn't meet up with her before, otherwise I would have recruited her to run.
It's not too late.
But I'm in it now, and I'm not a quitter, so I'm gonna have to battle it out and see who comes out victorious, and I wish you all the best. My name is Virginia Fuller. I am a legal immigrant. I have been living in the U.S. Can you all hear me? Thank you. I've been living in the U.S. for more than 40 years. I immigrated from the Netherlands. My background is from a very meager beginning. And unfortunately, I was raised as an orphan. I became an orphan when I was 13 months. But you don't have to feel sorry for me. It only made me a stronger person, committed, and very strong conviction in my values. So while I may not have a whole lot of experience to tell you what I have done in government or with government, you will find by my story that you are looking at somebody who is honest, who is not afraid to stand up, and just like our president, Mr. Trump, that I have a backbone and I don't back out, I'll back down for anyone. And I always fight the fight with all I have until the end. Though I was born as an orphan and life was was not a walk in the park. I managed to overcome the hindrance, and I became a registered nurse trained in the Netherlands. And after my graduation, I moved to the US in New York, where I was dating someone. We got married 2 years later. Moved to California and have lived there for the last 30-some years. I've been in Florida for the past 4 years. In California, I was a pediatric nurse. I was also the main breadwinner. My husband was going to school to get his doctorate in pharmacology, which he now proudly holds. We raised 2 children, both very well educated. My son went to Columbia University and graduated with a degree in physics. My daughter is now working on her 3rd master's. She is also a linguist, masters several languages. And because she serves in the US Marine and wants to be stationed in Japan, the government said, you have to get your master's in Japanese. And that's what she is doing now at the Post-Naval Graduate School in Monterey, California. She's serving as a captain in the US Marines. While I was at Children's Hospital working in the rehab unit, we were caring for children that were severely damaged through vehicle accidents, near drowning, and we could not discharge the kids when the hospital was not able to do more for them, and there were no nursing homes for children. They were too difficult to send home, too complex, and I stepped up to the plate and set up a nursing home for those type of kids. Also set up a care home for abused and neglected children, because obviously I know so much about that. And in doing so, I thought that I was doing a good service for my community, and obviously as a minority myself, I want to serve my community and the Black community in particular. And it's often said that we Blacks don't do much for our own kind. And it's true that the white community, whenever there is a disaster, you guys are there. It doesn't matter what the ethnicity of the community is, you're always there. And often Blacks are not there. And I don't know what to say about it, but sometimes we do try. We just don't get the opportunity or even the acknowledgement. I may never have gotten the acknowledgement that I was running this care home for these children when we were being boycotted and could never fill up our beds, when our counterpart, in the same time that we couldn't fill one 6-bed facility, was managing 7 beds and maintaining 7 homes and maintaining a waiting list. We never made it in the news, but other people would make it in the news because they're so benevolent, you know. I am, therefore, got very frustrated when my own Black and white legislators didn't care that children were dying in substandard homes or in substandard care. And I had vacant beds in my facility, but we were not allowed to get those kids in. And when we do, you know, if you only have 3 children, but you have to run your facility as if you have a full capacity, your overhead, you cannot spread the cost. So it was a drain on your personal finances, and certainly a drain on the family, because my hours became so long and hard. But when I decided that this was more than really my family should take in, I became an activist. I became a Tea Party organizer. I became a protester at Planned Parenthood, because only then did I have time to look around and see what's going on. And when I became so active, I also wanted to unseat those people that weren't doing their job. Because if they weren't doing their job, then I knew somebody better that could do it for them. And so hopefully in the rest of the night, I'll be able to tell you what I stand for and why I believe that I am just as qualified as all other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. And now we have Mr. Mike Watkins, and he'll.
Good evening. I'm Mike Watkins. I'm the CEO of Big Bend Community-Based Care. I'll be 49 next month. I have 2 daughters, 21 and 10. I talked Paula into having one more child. I played ball all my life, including a small college, Christian college in Missouri. I said, if we have one more child, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a boy this time. I can feel it. We're going to have a boy. I have 2 girls. I'm very proud of them. They're the biggest thing in my heart, so what I spend most of my time on. They are so precious to me. And as I go about making decisions and the work that I do, from the things I do in my everyday life to how I act as a Christian, I go to River of Life in Wakulla County, where I live. I always think about our issues through the eyes of my children. And I'm sure that you do the same, and your grandchildren maybe. And what are we leaving for them? And I got to tell you, when I look back over the last couple of elections, both at the presidential level and for the governor's race, these were narrow, thin, razor-thin elections. And elections matter. And I think everybody here is probably Republican. We're here at the Republican meeting, so I think party does matter. It's not inconsequential that we're running for the Republican nomination. We have a House of Representatives that has a Republican majority, a Senate that has a Republican majority, and we have a governor that's Republican. It matters who we subscribe to. I'm a conservative Republican. The things that go along with that are important to me start with some of our basic freedoms and our basic rights, like gun rights, Second Amendment. I'm A-rated by the NRA. I'm a lifetime member. I was raised by a Marine that stood up and said, you know what, I'm going to take care of you and your mom. I was only 18 months old when my stepdad stood in and took care of us. I was raised in Washington County, just south of Chipley, a place called Wausau. That's a possum capital of the world, if you haven't heard of it. It's a very small place on 160 acres that my family homesteaded since 1893. So that's where I'm from. I currently live in Panacea, Florida. Wakulla is the biggest county in the district. This is the largest district in the state. So when you cast your vote, just know that the range of needs and the range of issues and the rurality of our community is vast, and it's great. And it's hard to cover such a big area. But we've got to do better. So one of the things that I agree upon with the candidates at the table tonight is that we have to do better. We can't have 6 more years of what we've been having. We need stronger gun rights and protections. Just last year, we gave up our rights to purchase guns at 18 and now to 21. So I look around at the veterans in the room, like my father that went into the Marines at 18, to think that I would look to him and say, you're not even able to buy a long gun at 18 years old. It blows me away. It's beside me. We need someone with strength and backbone. Hard work matters. I graduated college in 3 years on academic and football scholarship and came home, went right to work for the state with HRS, making $16,000 a year. We are, in our party and our principles, we believe in capitalism, not socialism. We believe in hard work, not handouts. And that's what I've been living for the last 26 years. Worked my way up through the state for 12 years. I was the youngest director for child protection statewide under Governor Bush when he appointed me to be a statewide director. After that, I went to be the CEO of Big Bend, so I'm responsible for all the mental health, substance abuse, and child protection from here to Escambia counties. Have a large budget, $115 million budget. It's 2.7% administration. We're a Governor Sterling Award winner. I've been in positions of leadership all the way from school into my work life and now in my current position. I think that's the kind of experience that matters in a race like this. Someone that's willing to say what they mean and mean what they say. That's what I'm here to do. There's a couple of issues that I hope we have a chance to talk about throughout the course of the questions that I feel very strongly about. One is we have a crisis in corrections. You know, you can't get here without going past Mayo CI. We have about a 30% vacancy and training rate, so that's effectively 1/3 of our positions are offline. And for those of you that worked in corrections, I know there's a couple folks that were maybe retired and work in corrections here. We have people with key in the dormitory on the floor. And for those of you who don't do the business, usually there's 2-3 people involved in that process. And we're violating our own standards of safety, we're violating our own standards of policy by allowing the guy in the uniform with the panic button and a radio, nothing more than a panic button radio, he's got the daggum keys in his pocket out on the floor. We're doing that because we don't have enough men and women on the line. And there's a fundamental reason why we're not able to fill those positions, and it comes back to we're not having a competitive work environment, pay for the work that's involved, and there's something wrong with how we are retaining our good talent. We're not able to retain good talent. So I hope it comes out in the course of the discussion. We need a step plan in corrections. Right now, a guy that comes in 1 year and a day becomes sergeant is making $1,500 less than a guy that's been there for 12 years as a sergeant. There's something wrong with that picture. The other piece that's really important to me, and it's on my mind, is the public schools. I graduated from a public school. We didn't have a charter school option. I'm okay with those people that do need options and have options to do that. That's great. And I'm very proud to say that you have A schools here. That's awesome for Lafayette County. That doesn't exist across the whole 10 counties. We have some school issues in public education. You're not going to be able to tax your way out of this. If I'm correct, we're almost a max out on the millage. You're not going to be able to raise enough taxes in Lafayette County to subsidize your school system properly. Even though you're at an A now, it's going to be a struggle across District 7. It's going to be a struggle in Lafayette County to have robust public education systems. Just next door to you, we have school systems that are failing. And I think there needs to be some protections. There should be some baseline funding to protect the facilities and the programs and our teachers in public school. If not for public school, I wouldn't have went to college. If not for advanced placement types of courses for those kids that want to go on the college path, I couldn't have went on to college. We need to preserve those options. We need to have a strong public education system. I think it's a fundamental piece of what government does, local government does, is provide education. And I'll just close with this and say that we need to make sure that our kids have the same opportunities as us, whether that be water policy, whether it be education, whether it be public safety. We have to make sure that we're leaving those things at least as in good shape as we had them, if not better, for our kids. Party matters. We are capitalists at heart. We are strong rural communities. It's okay for us to get our share of state resources. We need a strong voice in Tallahassee to make sure that we get protected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Watkins. Now, I want to remind everybody, in the back, we've got index cards that you can write any questions that you have for the candidates on. So, right before I go back there and grab them, do y'all have any? I just want to give y'all the opportunity to go back there and write a couple of questions down.
You want us to pass some cards out too?
Yeah, if you'll raise your hand if you don't.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get some cards.
We have, there's a restroom back there. The restroom's in the front of the room. There's a restroom back that way around the corner too. It's kind of in an awkward place, I've always thought.
I agree
Up
with
at
you.
the front of the room. I don't know.
That's a little dope, man. We used to have dances out here all the time growing up. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Even had a back door there, you go out back. I don't know if they put it out there.